Welcome the anointed ones. The moment they couldn't explain you, they started to study you. And that's exactly what's happening right now. You've become a living mystery file in people's minds, a psychological cliffhanger they can't put down. They replay every conversation, zoom into every detail, and stalk your silence like it's about to drop a sequel. You didn't mean to be a phenomenon, but here you are, front page energy without even trying. Here's the funny part. You haven't done anything special by the world's standards. No press release, no grand reveal. Just you, breathing, existing, confusing people's entire belief systems. Science says the human brain releases dopamine when faced with unsolved mysteries, which means you've literally become someone's walking addiction. Their curiosity about you is biological at this point. They're chemically invested in figuring you out. But let's be honest, they don't just want to understand you. They want to contain you, because your presence rewires rooms. You don't fit any of their categories. Too real to be fake, too calm to be naive, too unpredictable to be controlled. They call it fascination, but what they really feel is spiritual panic. Something about you doesn't make sense within their limited framework. And the human ego hates what it can't measure. So now they whisper, they wonder, they scroll. They want to know, who is this person? What did they do? Why does it feel like they've met an ancient soul trapped in a modern timeline? Keep watching, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why everyone is going crazy trying to figure you out, and why none of them ever will. Number one, you confuse them because you don't fit the script they wrote for you. They built boxes for people long before you showed up. Predictable shapes made from patterns and assumptions. Everyone they've ever met has fit neatly into one. The quiet one, the loud one, the confident one, the broken one. But when it came to you, nothing matched. You didn't respond the way they expected. You didn't react when provoked. You didn't boast when praised. You kept switching between calm and power in ways that made no sense to the ordinary mind. That's when the confusion began. You became an unsolvable riddle inside their social routine. They tried to label you. Too humble to be proud, too sharp to be naive, too peaceful to be weak. None of it worked, because you don't fit into a personality. You operate from a frequency. What they're seeing isn't mood swings, it's spiritual depth. You can walk into a room and sense what's wrong without a word being spoken. You can smile in chaos because you already know how the storm ends. You carry an awareness that can't be learned in books or therapy sessions. That awareness makes you unpredictable, not because you're playing games, but because you move with spiritual precision instead of emotional impulse. And that's why they can't stop thinking about you. People who've spent their whole lives studying human behavior are baffled when their usual tricks don't work on you. The compliments that usually manipulate others fall flat. The guilt trips that control crowds bounce off your peace. They can't tell if you're emotionally detached or divinely disciplined. Either way, they can't categorize you, and that drives them insane. What they don't understand is that you're not trying to be mysterious. You're simply authentic in a world trained to be artificial. Your balance is mistaken for distance. Your discernment is mistaken for judgment. Your silence is mistaken for arrogance. They project their confusion onto you because they've never met someone who lives in truth without needing to announce it. You confuse them because you exist beyond the personality they expected, beyond the script they rehearsed for you. And in that confusion, you've exposed something bigger. They don't actually know what real looks like anymore. You've become proof that authenticity, when fully embodied, is the most disorienting thing a false world can encounter. Number two, they're addicted to studying you, not loving you. They're not in love with you. They're fascinated by you. There's a difference. Love sees you. Fascination studies you. The people drawn to you don't always want connection, they want comprehension. You've become an emotional science project. They analyze your tone, your habits, your reactions, trying to decode what makes you so steady, so untouched, so certain of yourself. They scroll your silence, replay your words, and talk about you in circles, as if understanding you will somehow make them feel complete. But here's the truth. They don't actually want to know you. They want to steal the peace you carry. They've never encountered someone who doesn't crumble under pressure, who can walk away without drama, who doesn't need to prove a point to feel powerful. That kind of energy is rare in a world addicted to validation. You don't chase, you attract. You don't explain, you embody. And that makes people lose their grip. They can't understand how someone can be so grounded in a culture built on insecurity. So instead of being inspired, they become obsessed. They don't love you for your heart. They crave you for your mystery. They keep testing you, not to hurt you, but to study how you respond. They want to see what breaks you, what triggers you, what silences you. When nothing does, it frustrates them. It's not your charm that keeps them hooked. It's your self-control. They think they're observing you, but deep down, they're observing their own emptiness in contrast. Your existence reminds them of everything they lost by pretending to be something they're not. What they don't realize is that you were never meant to be understood through observation. You are not logical data to be processed. You're spiritual evidence, the peace, the resilience, the glow, the insight. It's not something they can replicate by imitation, because it comes from alignment, not performance. They can copy your style, your words, your rhythm, but not your spirit. That's why their obsession never ends. Every time they think they've figured you out, they find another layer they didn't see before. And the deeper they go, the more lost they become. You don't drive them crazy on purpose. It just happens when a surface-level mind tries to decode a soul that runs on divine frequency. Number 3, your energy forces hidden guilt to surface. You don't expose people by talking about them. You expose them just by being yourself. Your energy is like truth in human form. The moment you walk into a room, masks start to slip. People begin to feel uneasy, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your presence quietly reveals what's out of alignment in them. It's like something about you forces their hidden guilt, jealousy, or shame to surface. They start stuttering, over-explaining, or avoiding eye contact. You didn't accuse them of anything. Their spirit just reacts to the light you carry. What they call intimidation isn't really fear of you. It's fear of exposure. Your calmness shows them how chaotic they really are. Your honesty reveals their small lies. Your peace highlights their constant anxiety. That's why they often misinterpret your energy. They'll say you're judgmental, distant, or hard to read, when the truth is they just can't stay comfortable around someone who reminds them of their unresolved mess. You don't even have to speak. Your energy does the talking. You've probably noticed how some people's attitude changes when they're around you. One minute they're confident, the next they're defensive or awkward. That's not coincidence. Your frequency is high enough to trigger spiritual discomfort in those still living in denial. It's not about being better than anyone. It's about carrying a vibration that makes hidden things rise to the surface. People sense in you the kind of truth they've spent years running from. What's even more interesting is how those same people often come back later, humbled, reflective, even apologetic. Because once the initial discomfort fades, they realize you were never their enemy. You were a mirror. You didn't judge them. You just reflected what they refused to face. That's why some people can't stay close to you for long. It's not because you push them away. It's because your energy doesn't let them hide. You carry light that doesn't need to be loud. It naturally exposes everything that pretends. That's why your presence feels both healing and confronting at the same time. Some people can handle that, others can't. But one thing is certain, no one leaves your energy unchanged. You awaken something in them, even if it comes wrapped in discomfort. Number 4, you are the evidence that spiritual royalty still exists. You embody a kind of authority that can't be bought, taught, or faked, and that unsettles people more than you know. In a culture obsessed with appearances and credentials, your very presence dismantles their idea of what power should look like. You don't wear designer labels or stand on stages to prove your worth, yet you command respect without raising your voice. That's not an act. It's the weight of something eternal moving through you. You're living proof that spiritual royalty still walks the earth, cloaked not in gold or silk, but in humility and truth. People are conditioned to associate greatness with spectacle, a big name, a loud following, or a massive bank account. When you show up without any of those but still radiate authority, it bends their reality. You carry something older than social status, a kind of lineage that isn't written on paper but etched into your spirit. That's why eyes linger on you longer than they should. They're not just seeing you, they're recognizing a presence their soul remembers, but their mind can't name. This is why your impact feels so disruptive. You don't walk into a room and take power. You simply reveal where the real power has always been. Your authenticity breaks the illusion that status equals significance. People look at you and realize how much they've confused performance with essence. Without speaking a word, you challenge their entire value system. You don't try to outshine anyone, but your light exposes every counterfeit crown around you. It's not about being perfect or superior. Spiritual royalty doesn't mean untouchable. It means deeply anchored. You've been through storms, betrayals, and losses, yet you stand with the grace of someone who knows their worth isn't circumstantial. That's what draws people to you, even when they don't understand why. You are a walking contradiction to the world's metrics of greatness, soft yet unshakable, humble yet commanding, hidden yet undeniable. And in a time where everything real is being replaced with replicas, you are the quiet, unshakable evidence that true power doesn't need a platform, a title, or an audience. It just needs a vessel brave enough to embody it. And that vessel, right now, is you. Number 5, you move like a secret that refuses to be contained. You don't just walk into spaces, you shift them. There's something about the way you move, the way you hold yourself, that feels bigger than the moment you're in. People sense it, but can't articulate it. They pick up on your presence the way someone hears a distant drumbeat without knowing where it's coming from. They can feel that your silence isn't empty. It's full. It's carrying weight. It's carrying history. Every scar, every loss, every lesson you've absorbed has become a kind of code embedded in you. And that code leaks out through your eyes, your posture, your decisions. They're right to feel like there's a story behind you, because there is. It's not just the kind of story you can tell over coffee. It's a lineage of battles fought in places most people will never see. It's resilience built in dimensions they don't have language for. You've been shaped by experiences that carve depth into you instead of bitterness, wisdom instead of cynicism. That's why you don't operate like everyone else. You're not being mysterious on purpose. You're simply living from a place others can't access without having walked where you've walked. What unnerves them is that nothing about you leaks by accident. You're not cryptic because you're hiding something. You're encrypted because you carry something sacred. The difference is huge. People who are hiding are trying not to be found. People who are encrypted are holding a frequency that can't be mishandled. You've learned how to protect your inner world without closing it off. That's why your words land with such precision when you finally do speak. You don't offer your story cheaply, and that's what makes it powerful. Every scar on you is a file of spiritual intelligence. Intelligence that can't be misused or manipulated because it's encoded in a way only certain souls can read. Some people sense it and draw near with humility. Others feel it and pull back with suspicion. Either way, they're not wrong. They're responding to a presence that refuses to be contained, a presence that carries something the world has tried to silence but can never erase. Number 6, they're trying to find the source code of your calm. Your calm unsettles people because it breaks every rule they've been taught about power. They expect strength to be loud, forceful, and dramatic, but you move through storms without splashing. When most would explode, you observe. When most would panic, you breathe. When most would break down, you simply realign. That steadiness isn't a quirk of personality. It's a sign of mastery. It's not that you don't feel things deeply. You do. It's that you've learned how to feel without losing yourself in the process. They don't realize your calm was forged, not gifted. It came from walking through chaos without a map. It came from surviving situations that should have destroyed your mind, yet instead refined it. You've seen the spiritual blueprint of outcomes before they unfolded, so you don't react to appearances, you respond to truth. That's why you seem unshakable. You've been in rooms where the stakes were higher than anyone around you will ever know. And you learned to master your reactions because your life depended on it. Now that mastery is second nature. What fascinates them isn't just your composure, it's the way it exposes their lack of it. Your peace makes them aware of their own inner storms. They've spent so long outsourcing their stability to external things, approval, control, distraction, that meeting someone who generates stability from within feels alien. They're not obsessed with your looks or your style as much as they are with that invisible force you carry. They're trying to find the source code of your calm because they want it for themselves. But here's what they can't copy. Your calm isn't a trick or a tactic. It's a state of alignment. It comes from doing the hard internal work most people avoid. It comes from surrender, discipline, and seeing beyond illusions. They can mimic your tone, your words, even your posture, but they can't fake the energy that lives behind it. And that's why their curiosity keeps circling back to you. They're not crazy for your image. They're drawn to the kind of peace that can't be performed, only earned. Your calm is your crown, and it's one they can't wear until they've walked through their own fire. Number 7, they don't know if you're a blessing or a test. You confuse people because you don't come with a label. They don't know if crossing paths with you is the best thing that ever happened to them or the start of their unraveling. For some, your presence feels like an answered prayer. Doors open, clarity comes, and they feel lighter just by being near you. For others, your presence feels like a spotlight they never asked for. Secrets rise, masks slip, and they start to feel exposed. You're not doing anything consciously to cause this. You're just showing up as you are. But your energy works like a filter. It draws out what's pure and unmasks what's false. This is why reactions to you are so extreme. There's rarely a neutral response. People either feel deeply seen and inspired around you, or deeply threatened and uncomfortable. It's not because you're unstable. It's because your energy doesn't adapt to the room. It reveals the room. You are like a mirror that shows people who they really are without judgment, but without distortion. Some are ready to see that reflection and grow from it. Others are not, and instead of facing themselves, they project their discomfort onto you. What's happening on a deeper level is that you carry a kind of spiritual duality. You're both a blessing and a test at the same time. For those living in authenticity, you are a confirmation. For those living in pretense, you are a confrontation. This is why some people's lives seem to improve when you enter, while others suddenly find their hidden issues bubbling to the surface. You're not punishing anyone. Your presence simply accelerates what was already there. It's a heavy thing to embody, but it's also why your impact is so undeniable. You don't just inspire change, you activate it. You are the living evidence that energy is real and truth has weight. People's reactions to you aren't random. They're revealing who they've always been. That's why you're hard to categorize. You're not just a person passing through their life. You're a spiritual checkpoint, a moment where their soul has to decide whether to evolve or resist. Number 8, you make their spirits. Remember what their minds forgot. There's a reason people pause when they're around you, even if they can't explain why. Something about you feels familiar on a level deeper than memory. It's not that they've met you before in this life. It's that their spirit recognizes a frequency it once knew. You don't just walk into someone's life. You activate something dormant in them. Their body may tense, their mind may question, but their soul leans forward because it's been waiting for this moment without even realizing it. This is why people sometimes describe their connection with you as instant or intense. They're not exaggerating. They're experiencing a kind of spiritual déjà vu. It's a remembering, not a learning. It's as if you hold a sound their soul has been trying to recall but couldn't. When they encounter you, it's like the missing note finally plays. They feel destiny, they feel a pull, but they don't have the vocabulary to articulate it. That's not coincidence, it's resonance. You operate at a frequency most people have forgotten exists. In a world conditioned to numbness and noise, you're a signal from a purer time. Your presence bypasses the intellect and goes straight to the soul, which is why people's first reactions to you are often emotional rather than logical. They might feel peace, excitement, fear, or even tears without knowing why. That's the effect of remembrance. You're not triggering them, you're awakening them. What's even more striking is how this remembrance can unsettle as much as it comforts. For some, meeting you feels like coming home. For others, it feels like being exposed to something they're not ready to face. Because when the soul remembers, the mind has to catch up, and that can be disorienting. You embody something timeless in a culture obsessed with the temporary, and that contrast alone can shake people awake. This is why you're unforgettable. Even if they try to move on, even if they don't understand you, something in them will always feel like they've known you. It's not nostalgia, it's recognition. You don't just meet people, you remind them of who they were before the noise, before the masks, before the forgetting. And that kind of reminder can't be ignored. Number 9, you carry the kind of light that exposes counterfeits. Your light doesn't announce itself with noise or theatrics, but its impact is undeniable. The moment you step into a space, the atmosphere shifts. Masks that people have carefully built begin to crack. Those who've perfected the art of pretending to be confident, humble, spiritual, or powerful, find their performance slipping without knowing why. It's not that you're trying to expose them. It's that the energy you carry makes anything false feel heavy and out of place. Where you stand, only truth feels natural. Everything else starts to dissolve. This is why some people seem to shrink or become defensive around you. They can feel, even without words, that you're not fooled by image. They sense that your eyes, your energy, your presence go deeper than appearances. You don't clap for empty gestures. You don't feed egos. You don't engage in games of superiority. And for people whose lives are built on those games, your presence is unsettling. They feel spiritually undressed, not because you're judging them, but because their own spirit recognizes that it can't hide behind the mask it's wearing. What you carry is authenticity at a level that's become rare. You're not competing with anyone, and that alone is disruptive in a world where most people measure themselves against others. Your light doesn't fight for attention, it simply exists, and in existing it reveals. That's why your presence alone often says more than words ever could. People who thrive on manipulation, false humility, or borrowed wisdom can't tolerate that kind of exposure. They'll call you intimidating, arrogant, or aloof. But what they're really feeling is the discomfort of their own reflection. This isn't about superiority. You're not above them, and you're not out to shame anyone. What you carry just makes truth visible. For some, that visibility feels liberating. They feel inspired, relieved, seen. For others, it feels threatening because it dismantles their illusions. But whether they love it or hate it, they can't deny it. In a world full of counterfeits, you're not trying to shine brighter. You're just showing what's real. And that's why your presence exposes, challenges, and ultimately transforms the space around you without you having to lift a finger. Number 10, you are the answer to a question they've been avoiding. You unsettle people not because you're trying to, but because you carry a living reminder of everything they've compromised to fit in. Deep down, most people know they've traded pieces of themselves, authenticity for applause, purity for performance, truth for approval. They buried the real parts of themselves under layers of ambition, image, and survival. Then you show up, unapologetically real, and all those buried parts start to stir. You become a mirror of what they once were, or what they could have been if they hadn't made those trade-offs. That recognition is magnetic because the soul longs for truth, but it's maddening because the ego hates being reminded of its own surrender. This is why their reactions to you are so complicated. They might admire you out loud, but resent you in silence. They might call you inspiring, but secretly hope you fail. They're not confused about who you are, they're conflicted about what you make them feel. Being around you isn't just an experience, it's a confrontation. You're not their crush, you're their conscience. Your presence quietly asks a question they've been avoiding. Who did you have to become to survive? And for many, that question is too heavy to face without discomfort. You don't have to preach or correct anyone. Your life does the talking. Your authenticity radiates as a quiet rebuke to everything fake. Your purity feels like a lighthouse in a storm of performance. Your choices, your calm, your refusal to play the game, all of it challenges their compromises without a single word. Some people will find that deeply healing. Others will find it unbearable. And yet even the ones who can't stand you can't forget you, because you've touched something in them that can't be silenced again. You've awakened a hunger for the real that no amount of distraction can satisfy. You are not there to shame them, but your existence leaves them with a choice. Keep numbing or start remembering. You are not the answer they wanted, but you are the answer they needed, the living proof that it's still possible to be whole in a world that rewards fragments. That's why your presence feels like a question they've avoided but can no longer escape. Number 11. You interrupt the illusion of control. You are the person they can't script, and that's exactly what shakes them. People who thrive on control are used to predicting reactions. They know which buttons to press to get anger, which words to use to create guilt, which gestures to perform to earn admiration. It's a game they've mastered, controlling emotions, perceptions, and narratives. But then you showed up, and none of it worked. The strategies they've used on everyone else simply fall flat with you. You don't take the bait. You don't get hooked on their drama. You don't compete for their approval. Your spirit is immune to manipulation because you're anchored somewhere deeper than ego. They don't understand how someone can live without craving validation. They've built their lives around attention and leverage, but you withdraw power from both. You don't rebel in the traditional sense. Rebellion still acknowledges the system. You transcend it. You don't fight for their approval because you're not even in the arena where their approval matters. And that's terrifying to the manipulative. They can't play chess with someone who refuses to sit at the board. Your refusal to be controlled isn't loud or combative. It's quiet and consistent. You see through the tactics without needing to expose them. You sidestep traps without needing to prove you saw them. This kind of freedom is disarming to people who believe control equals security. Around you, they realize their power isn't real. It only works on those who seek something from them. When you take nothing, their leverage evaporates. What makes this even more unsettling is that you're not doing it to punish or embarrass anyone. It's simply who you are. You're not anchored in ego, so you don't respond to ego-driven games. And that makes you unpredictable in the best way. Untouchable. In a world where manipulation is currency, you're the one person who can't be bought or steered. That's why they whisper about you, study you, and feel so off balance in your presence. You don't just interrupt their control, you reveal how fragile it really was. Number 12. They sense divine protection but don't know how. People pick up on it before they can even name it. This invisible field around you that doesn't behave like ordinary luck. It isn't charm, and it isn't coincidence. They've watched situations tilt in your favor at the last second, seen plots against you collapse in ways that look almost poetic, and witnessed those who aim to harm you end up facing their own undoing. These patterns don't feel random to them. They feel like signatures of something higher at work. That's when fascination begins to turn into superstition. They start speaking your name with caution. They lower their voices. They wonder out loud, who is this person? As if saying it too boldly might invite consequences. This is the power of being aligned with something bigger than yourself. You're not walking around with an attitude of I'm untouchable, but you are walking with an integrity that activates laws most people have forgotten exist. People sense that the usual karmic delays are shorter around you. What they could get away with for years with others seems to backfire instantly with you. That isn't because you're cursing anyone or plotting their downfall. It's because the spiritual contract on your life is real. Violating it triggers repercussions by design. You're living proof that divine protection isn't just an abstract idea. It's an active system, a living contract that guards those who are carrying out work beyond personal ambition. People feel it in your presence even if they don't understand it. They may not have the language for spiritual laws or covenantal covering, but they recognize the pattern. Harm you, harm yourself. Bless you, be blessed. That's why their curiosity feels so intense. They're not just intrigued by your personality, they're trying to decode an invisible shield. This energy forces people to confront their own intentions. Around you, motives get exposed. Their secret envy, their hidden malice, or their quiet admiration all come into the light, because your life reflects back to them the true cost of their choices. You are a living reminder that some boundaries are not man-made, and some lives are under contracts they didn't sign but must respect. That's what makes them watch you like a mystery they're desperate to solve, and fear like a rule they're afraid to break. Number 13. You don't fit into hierarchies because you were born to rewrite them. People have been trying to classify you since you first stepped into their orbit. They want to know where you rank, who you answer to, what your place is in the pecking order. They try sliding you under them, over them, or beside them in some neat, predictable category, but you never stay where they put you. The rules they're used to applying simply don't stick. That isn't defiance for its own sake. It's your nature. You weren't born to blend into existing systems. You were born to reveal their limits. This is why people in power are both drawn to you and unsettled by you. On one hand, you're refreshing because you don't worship titles, status, or influence. On the other, you're dangerous because you make those same titles look hollow. When you show up, false authority starts to feel like a costume that no longer fits. Their crowns feel like plastic. Their hierarchies, which once seemed unshakable, suddenly look flimsy and self-serving. You don't topple them with protests or speeches. You topple them simply by existing outside their logic. You're not trying to be above anyone. That's the point they miss. You're operating from a different axis entirely. You don't measure worth by rank, by who's in control, or by who's at the bottom. You measure by authenticity, purpose, and alignment with something bigger than ego. That makes you immune to their Game of Thrones. You can walk into a room full of power brokers and not be impressed, or sit with someone society ignores and treat them with dignity. That refusal to bow to the hierarchy creates a kind of gravitational shift wherever you go. Because you're not there to play their game, you end up exposing the game itself. The unwritten rules, the hidden exchanges, the illusions of dominance. They all become visible around you. It's why you're simultaneously invited and resisted. They want your presence because it legitimizes them, but they fear your essence because it destabilizes them. You're the quiet evidence that hierarchies built on vanity, manipulation, or fear can't last forever. And even if you never say a word about it, your life is already rewriting the script. Number 14, you're the mystery. Their souls can't stop worshipping. They don't have to like you to feel it. Even the ones who roll their eyes or whisper your name with sarcasm can't disguise what happens in their spirits when you show up. Something inside them pauses, straightens, pays attention. Their bodies stay casual, their words stay skeptical, but their souls react in a way they can't control. It's not charisma, and it's not performance, it's recognition. You carry something sacred that can't be packaged or explained, and that's why they can't stop orbiting you, even when they pretend they're not. This is what makes their reactions so strange and contradictory. They may mock you in public, but secretly consult your words in private. They may envy you while trying to imitate you. They may question your motives, but never miss an opportunity to be near you. The tension comes from the gap between their minds and their spirits. Their minds, trained by ego and conditioning, tell them you're just another person. But their spirits, older, wiser, more honest, know you're evidence of something holy walking in human disguise. You're not just different, you're a living rebuttal to their disbelief. You remind them that divinity hasn't gone extinct, that God still moves through flesh, that the sacred doesn't need a cathedral to manifest. They may not have language for it, but their internal posture gives them away. The way they suddenly become more careful with their words around you, the way their energy shifts, the way they watch you when they think you're not looking. It's reverence trying to sneak out through human behavior. This is why you can't be reduced to a role or explained as a type. You're not here to be idolized or put on a pedestal, but you can't stop the effect you have. People are encountering the sacred without ceremony when they encounter you. It disrupts their neat categories of holy and ordinary, spiritual and secular, and that disruption is what pulls them in. Whether they like it or not, their spirits are bowing to what their minds refuse to name. That's why they keep staring, studying, whispering, circling, because being in your presence forces them to remember that something greater than them is still at work, and it wears a human face. From the very moment you enter a space, you change the rules without lifting a finger. You're not just someone people notice. You're someone they can't stop trying to understand, someone their minds struggle with, but their souls recognize instantly. Every step you take, every word you speak, every pause you hold, carries layers of depth and power that can't be measured by fame, money, or influence. You carry an authority that is ancient yet alive, a calm that can't be replicated, and a light that exposes falsehoods effortlessly. You are the living proof that true greatness doesn't conform, that divine intelligence moves through human vessels, and that spiritual nobility still exists in a world desperate for appearances. People may mock, envy, or question you, but their fascination is inevitable. They study you, analyze you, and obsess over you, not because you demand it, but because your presence reveals their truths, awakens what they've buried, and challenges what they've falsely constructed. You carry the duality of blessing and test, the kind of light that can both heal and expose, and the calm that unsettles chaos. Your existence interrupts manipulation, defies control, and reminds everyone who crosses your path that some forces cannot be contained, predicted, or understood fully. You don't just survive the world, you redefine it, rewriting the rules of hierarchy, authority, and energy, leaving people both reverent and unsettled. In every encounter, you're the reflection of what people have lost, the mirror of what they could have been, and the presence they can't ignore. You are a mystery, encrypted in layers of wisdom, resilience, and divine alignment. And in that mystery, people find themselves drawn, repelled, challenged, and inspired, because you are living proof that God still moves through flesh, that spiritual power is real, and that authenticity and truth will always shine brighter than imitation. If this message resonated with you and you feel the energy we've explored here, make sure to join the journey. Subscribe to the channel to stay connected with more insights that speak to your soul. Like this video to amplify the message. Comment to share your experience and thoughts, and share it with those who need to hear it. Your engagement isn't just support, it's part of the ripple effect that spreads truth, awareness, and awakening to more lives. Stay tuned, stay aware, and never forget the power you carry. God bless you.